Hey, hi, hello friends, and we're here today with my first video of the Halloween season. Hello friends, hi to all the new faces. It's good to be here with you guys again after having watched another one of Chantel's rages. Today we're going to be discussing her video BBJ. It is split into two videos, so I'm going to put one out today, which for you guys should be Saturday morning, and then the other will go out Sunday morning. I'm going to split this video up like back to back into two halves. So I realize I look a little bit like a greasy chicken right now. It's been a whole ass day. I took a nap. My face got greasy. I repowdered, but you know, you can't really do anything about it. My hair's looking a little worse for wear, but it is what it is. And we got to persevere, you know, we just got to push through. With all that said, let's jump into this actual video. It is long. It is a hot mess. I condensed about an hour's worth of video down into about 14 minutes. Both halves should be about 7.5 minutes of actual video plus me talking. And you guys know I can talk about like a 5-minute video for like an hour. So I didn't want to make this 2.5 hours long and make it like a feature length film. We're not here to sit through the Suicide Squad again. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into two pieces, make it a little bit more digestible. You get a little bit of goodness over the weekend, and then I can take a break and then hop back on like Tuesday or something. And this will give me a chance to also listen to Smokey Steve Mark and maybe Milk Tea Reacts if she's feeling up to putting something up, because I need some like someone else's perspective right now. She's been a lot. With all that said, let's jump into it.
Just like people obviously are just like, I check my comments, it's BBJ is being abused, BBJ is being thrown from a trapeze, BBJ is being stabbed. I don't want to downplay BBJ's, what you can call it, mistreatment. She's not being abused. I told you about what happened the one time. It shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have told you guys. Like, I feel like this is just like inappropriate to tell a whole bunch of people, especially knowing the reaction and how serious. Like, these things are what causes the cops to get called. It causes animal services. I wouldn't still be talking to Natter if my BBJ was hurt in any way. I think what happens is...
Okay. Quick thing here. She says that, well, you know, people are saying all these ridiculous things that like BBJ is being kicked, BBJ is being thrown down the stairs and attacked. We don't know what happened. All we know is you put out messages. You yourself voluntarily, without anyone forcing your hand, put out messages saying that BBJ was terrified. And so we would assume that if you're a reasonable, rational person, that you would be reacting to something that would be pretty bad, right? Like if I send a message to partner saying, how dare you act this way? Don't you know that my cat, who I will here call Jalebi, you know, is reacting so poorly and she's terrified, and how could you do this? People could rightfully assume from that my cat was attacked. Because why else would I be reacting this way, right? Why else would I be making such a big deal out of it? Especially if I've had a past of dismissing violent actions from my significant other, as she has. Because he's hit her. It's not just about BBJ. He's attacked her. He has beaten her. He has gotten physically violent with her. So people would assume that if what he did to her was simply just hit her, then whatever he did to BBJ must have been of a greater magnitude for her to have reacted like that, especially considering the fact that she never made a big hullabaloo about the fact that BBJ, the fact that he hit her. So it must have been something worse, hence the threw her down the stairs, kicked her. And I will add that while it doesn't go hand in hand that people who are violent towards people are violent towards animals, a lot of people from like, you know, Middle Eastern countries, a lot, especially like people who are Muslim, I'm speaking from experience here, pets aren't really a thing that we jive with. A lot of people don't really keep cats or dogs, especially in the house. And because of that, when we have like interactions with a pet like that, we don't we don't tend to bond with them quite as much. I'm saying we, and you know, people who are mostly from like the Southeast Asian subcontinent, sort of, and like a lot of, I have some Middle Eastern blood in me too, and people from that area generally, they don't tend to jive very well with pets. They see them as unclean, and a lot of them don't tend to view them as part of the family the way that it is normalized in Western society. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was maybe a little bit more dismissive towards her pet. That said, you can't exactly blame people for jumping to conclusions. When you put something out there and you just sort of left it hanging, people can and will assume the absolute worst, especially when it comes to a guy who's already shown to be like violent.
When I'm angry with him, I come online and I think of everything he's done wrong, and I just rehash it over and over. And then whenever I'm not angry and we make up, I'm more willing to excuse things and forgive things. So that's why you see a lot of back and forth. And
it's not forgive things. This is something that I addressed in my patrons only video as well, where I talked about her, the video that she put out called Eating, which she then deleted. The thing is that forgiving means that you have let it go entirely and it's not going to come back up. She's not forgiving. She is simply choosing to ignore for the time being. And as long as the good times keep coming, she's going to keep ignoring it. But the moment that it becomes a bad time, she will bring it right back up, even if it's unconnected to what you're currently mad about. And the reason for it is because you're not really forgiving the other person. There is stuff that partner and I have had like arguments over, that sometimes he's been in the wrong, that I've been in the wrong. We have an argument, we let it go. That's what forgiving means. Understanding that the person has asked for forgiveness and now you are no longer mad at them. You know, there is the second part of it, the forgetting part, which is like not even remembering and not considering it to be an incident. I don't necessarily believe in that, especially if they have a history of repeating the same action. But as long as they don't repeat the action, it's all golden. She's not willing to do that. She really has a very hard time forgiving anybody for anything. You know, she's, what is it? It's a hurt collector, I think is the term that I'm thinking of. That's how she behaves. It's like she keeps a mental list of everyone who's ever wronged her. I think it was Steve from Smokey Stephen Marks who said that, like, you know, he drinks the way that she does, like, weed, or the way that she eats, which is she'll just sit there and she'll pound back, you know, cheeseburger after cheeseburger, and she'll make a mental list of everyone who's ever said anything that's like hurt her feelings in the slightest. That's not really a rational way to live your life. And honestly, it doesn't feel like it would be conducive to bringing you any kind of joy. But then again, what do I know? And more importantly, I don't think that it's compatible with having a healthy relationship. I really don't, especially not if he really is sorry and he's asking for forgiveness and all those fun things. If all of that is true, then you should be able to let it go and move on from it. But you haven't, because you can't let it go and he's not sorry. And so you have no incentive to even try.
I don't, like, people are calling me an animal abuser. I don't obviously abuse my animals. I would never do that. If anyone ever, like, if he even, like, raises his voice at BBJ ever again, obviously I've never ever talked to him again. Like,
you're saying that, but we haven't really seen any kind of consistency with you following through, especially when it comes to Nader. So I can't really say if that's true one way or the other. That being said, when it comes to abuse, I don't think she's actually abusing her animals. I do feel like she's mildly negligent, like not changing out their litter. If you guys saw, there was like cat shit on the floor in one of the videos. I think it was a video from Nader. I saw the clips of it on Twitter. And so I think that while she's not like abusive, she's not beating them, she's not feeding them. I think she takes care of most of their needs. I think she takes them to the vet. I don't think that she exactly interacts with them as much as they need to be interacted with. I don't think that she's brushing them as much as they need to be brushed. And then also, let's not forget, when she first got together with Nader, she would like ignore her cats for days on end, especially after they've had no one but her for company. Like, they're used to that. And she would ignore them and leave all of their care and feeding up to Pete's, and she would just bounce, right? So I'm not saying abuse it's a very particular term and you shouldn't just throw it around. She's not abusive towards her cats. She is, though, neglectful towards her cats some of the time. Not the same thing. That being said, who knows? Who knows if he ever speaks to BBJ like that again, if she'll like actually leave, right? We've seen no consistency in her behavior when it comes to this guy at all. So for all I know, he can actually kick BBJ down the stairs and she'd just be like, well, it was one time and if he ever does it again, then I'll leave. This guy hit you and terrified your cat. Those are at like, and by the way, I think she admits either it's in this video or another video. In one of the videos, she admits that it was more than one instance of abuse. And he is often verbally abusive with her. And she's willing to let all of that go. And she's like, if he does it again, then I'll leave, then I'll leave. But I mean, all that's doing is like finger wagging at him. That doesn't actually accomplish anything. And he knows that you don't have any conviction in what you say.
I would never talk to anybody ever again who would write, like, what happened? So basically what happened, because people are confused. I'm not going to try to, like, downplay it or make it sound better, because, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to gaslight you or whatever that word is.
I love when she does this. This is a really fucking idiotic thing that a lot of people like to do, where they act like they are brand new, right? Where they literally have no idea what certain words mean, where they're like talking about someone. Like she does this a lot with creators too, and where she'll just go like, life of a whatever. Don't act like you don't know who they are. And I don't even understand what the point of that is. That we are supposed to listen to you because you know so very little about this person. It makes you look stupid. It doesn't give you any credibility. It doesn't make you seem like you know what you're talking about. If I have a grudge against someone, right? I have a grudge against someone because I stand behind my opinion based, sorry, I got off track a little bit. I have a grudge against someone because I know I can stand behind my opinion, right? A grudge means that I have a prolonged period of time where I'm mad at someone for a specific reason. Right? If I don't like someone, I don't tend to like people for like a reason. When I was younger, I found myself just being mad at people for no apparent reason. And I really had to work through why that was. And it was because I would pick one trait, one superficial thing about them. And I would just decide, oh, that means that they're like this, like this, like this. And make assumptions about their personality, about their character, about who they were as an individual. None of which is fair to them because I am creating a person in my head and hating that person. And that person might not at all reflect who they are in actual real life, right? And most people aren't like that. Most people don't just make snap judgments and say they don't like them. This comes from a place of deep insecurity. It comes from a place of automatically judging other people because you always assume that other people are always judging you. And I think Chantel genuinely does this. She also pretends when she knows who the other person is, when she's aware of who the other person is, she'll play like completely dumb. And she does this most often with Callie, right? She'll say life of a whatever as if she doesn't know what Callie's name is, right? And then she'll like, sometimes she'll go in and she'll say life of no life of a free spirit or whatever it is she says. It's a stupid insult. I don't care. But a lot of times when she's taking pot shots at Callie, she pretends like she doesn't know who the creator is. Wouldn't it lend more validity to your argument to say, I know who this person is. This is what her name is. This is what she stands for. This is what, she says, right? Say if she doesn't like me, she can say, her name is Jasmine. She's made this many videos about me. She talks smack all of the time. She's a fat girl, but she's still talking about my weight. And here she is offering advice when she's not a therapist. All of those are fair things to say. You could even have points in there that are not necessarily fair. Like, whatever, my eyes are too close together. My face is too round. And I occasionally get facial hair. All of that, whatever. I don't give a shit, right? So when you're talking about somebody, you can, if you know more about them, you can actually have an in-depth discussion about why you agree or don't agree with someone. But I think the reason why she's not willing to admit people here is it's like in trend apparently to act like you don't know anything about them. Like, I see this a lot on people who are talking about like reviews for movies that they don't like or like individuals that they don't like. To be very frank, it comes very often to me in the form of people who have a little bit more of like an extreme viewpoint in politics, and they'll be like, they'll pretend not to know. Like, I'm going to go with Anita Sarkeesian because she's the first person I know. Like, Anita Sar, whatever her name is. And they'll just like act like she's so irrelevant, I barely know anything about her. And yet you are here mentioning her in your video. And obviously you seem to dislike her. So either you know enough about her to dislike her or you don't, in which case don't say anything. right? It's just a thing. It's a thing she does. It really irritates me. Figured I would mention it. Yeah. But yeah, she knows exactly what gaslighting is. I got sidetracked there for a second. She knows exactly what gaslighting is because we've accused her enough of it, and she's claimed that, I'm not gaslighting you, you're gaslighting me, which is honestly very fucking stupid because she changes her narrative on what is and is not happening all the time. Even with this, she talks about how, this happened with BBJ, and she'll talk back and forth about whether or not she is upset at him and whether or not he deserves to be forgiven or not, right? Like, she flip-flops on things a lot, and it depends. Like, gaslighting doesn't mean that you don't flip-flop. Like, if you guys don't know, the term gaslight comes from a movie in which, if I remember correctly, it's like someone has like a light on and they keep like dimming it every day by a little bit to drive their significant other crazy. And every day they would dim the light a little bit, and when their significant other asked them, like, the lights seem dimmer, they'd be like, nah, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's where that term comes from. It's convincing somebody that the reality that they're living, the reality that they're experiencing, is not actually what is happening around them, right? Like, that they're crazy, that there's something wrong with their perception of the world. And everyone is prone to it at one time or another, because for all that we always think that we're right, there is a part of us, right? Like for me as well, where I think, am I making the right call here? Am I being too crazy? Especially because I have anxiety. I have like a condition that makes me react more to certain situations than some other people would. And she uses that in her favor. She's like, I never said that. I've never done that. I have no idea what you're talking about. Or she'll try and blame it on other people. They're like, no, that's what someone else was saying. But it's all a form of gaslighting. It's convincing us that what we heard and what we saw isn't what we heard and saw. That our perception of reality is different than what actual reality is, even though we have a ton of evidence otherwise. And she tends to... It's a self-selection criteria, especially for her audience members, especially for her VIBs, right? Where she only seems to want people who are easily either manipulatable. I don't know if that's a word. They're malleable when it comes to their opinions and beliefs about what is happening in her life, or people who know better than to say anything and have kept their mouths shut. Speaking of people in her audience, you guys are probably aware of what's happening with Karate Joe. If you guys don't know, I made a video about Karate Joe a little while ago. I'll throw it up in the cards if you guys are interested in watching it. But Karate Joe is I have always felt that he's controlling and weird and that he's a grade A creep. Right? In a way that I think very few people are. He's controlling of her time. He's controlling of her attention. He doesn't like there being certain people in the chat. He'll block anybody if he has the power to do so, even when she tells him not to. And she kind of likes having him there in that capacity because she likes having a guard dog, but she also doesn't like it because Chantal doesn't like being told what to do by anyone. And he does severely put restrictions on what she can and cannot do and who she can and cannot interact with. All of this brings us back to Karate Joe was doxxed. And I'm not going to put his dox information in here, mostly just because I don't believe in doxing. But he is a registered sex offender. Second degree, I forget what the exact charge was, but essentially he had indecent contact with a child. So you guys can extrapolate from that. If you guys want to know, it's all over the internet anyway. It'll be on Kiwi Farms. And normally, once more, I feel worse about doxing. There are very few crimes. Complex feelings about the justice system here. I don't, in theory, believe in the death penalty. I don't think it makes any sense to me. It's costly and it's useless, I think, in my own personal opinion. That said, when it comes to crimes against children, as far as I'm concerned, you can put all of those people into a catapult and launch them directly into the sun. It's just how I feel. Okay, with all that said, let's actually get back to Chantal's video.
But we were arguing a few months ago, or a couple months ago, I don't remember the exact day. We were arguing, and I'm only going over this again because I already told you about it, so I may as well clarify what happened. Nobody was kicked, nobody kicked BBJ. So what happened was we were arguing. We were both really tired. I don't remember even what we were arguing about. We had like 2 really, really, really bad fights. And
I love how she says we've had 2 really, really bad fights, as if those are the only fights she's ever had. Y'all break up and get back together every 1 or 2 days. I do not believe that. Also, she says, like BBJ wasn't kicked. Well, we'll get to it.
the one I already told you about, like this one, there was no like violence or anything. It's just that we were shouting, like we were shouting at each other pretty loudly, and then that was it. Like BBJ was like in the way, like on the couch, like the middle part of the brown couch. Well, that's what happened. She was like crying at us for treats, and he just kind of like, get out of the way, like kind of like swatted her away, and then like didn't like chase her around the house, but like chased her. She ran up the stairs, like to get her out of the way because he was frustrated. And
okay, so I'm gonna point out 2 things here. One, he swatted her out of the way. If she's sitting in the middle part of the couch and then he's like chasing her around, it implies that she fell to the floor, right? So he doesn't say that, but I feel like it's a reasonable assumption. So he essentially pushed your cat off of the couch, and then to further terrorize an elderly cat, chased her around the house, right? Now, around the house could imply maybe just on that floor, also could imply going up to the second floor. I would say going up to the second floor, because that cat has spent enough time in Chantal's room to consider it somewhat of a safe spot, and I don't know why it would continue to run in circles when it could go upstairs, right? And where the couch is and where the stairs are, it's like a pretty quick walk between the two. So this man chases this cat upstairs. And at this point, Chantal, who weighs 350 pounds, give or take 10, cannot chase after him this fast, which means she doesn't know what he does, right? And there's chaos happening. He's running around. There's footsteps. She might already be making sounds. You don't know if this man kicked your cat or not. But she's terrified of him now. She's actually scared of him, right? If he's pushed her off the couch once, it's entirely possible that he picked her up and threw her into the room or something like that. You don't know, simply speaking. So you cannot say that he didn't actually hit or otherwise cause pain to your cat. You can only say that you didn't see it then, right? That's the best argument that you can make. But you don't know, because for all you know, he did when you weren't looking.
I didn't really see like exactly like whatever she.
See? I didn't see exactly what happened. So she doesn't know exactly what happened. So he could have. She's just assuming that it didn't, because it makes it easier for her to go back to this man.
Like, she was scared, startled, and but like the last time she saw him, she was eating out of his hand and stuff, and like she just hid for a while, but she was starting to come around a bit, So that's what happened with the BBJ thing. Nobody kicked BBJ.
I don't know enough about cats to really know if cats are willing to forgive that kind of behavior, how fast it takes, how long it takes for them to learn that kind of fear. So I will not comment on that one way or the other. And also, once more, everything Chantal says has to be doubted, at least a little bit.
She's absolutely fine. When I go live later, she will be in the video, she will, crying for treats. What happened really did, I think after that, I was in my room depressed eating lakma for a few days, because we did break up. I was like, this is, that's it, never again. We had a really bad fight. I shouldn't have told you guys about it publicly, so I want to apologize for taking you guys on a roller coaster,
Okay. I don't give a shit about her apologies because they don't mean anything to me, but she said that she was in her room for a few days eating lakma, so that does give us a good timeline of when exactly this happened. This was relatively recently. So he's been abusive with you, he's been verbally abusive with you, he's terrorized your cat, and still after everything, she's back together with him now, or unless they've broken up again, which God knows could have happened. I don't know what this man has to do to make you understand that he is not good for you. I genuinely worry that the only thing that'll make her understand is like broken bones. And even then, I don't know. And my bigger concern is that she's going to move in with him. Once she's moved in with him, you know, he's like, why don't you give me your banking passwords? Oh, I'll just set it up so that the YouTube check goes directly into my account. You know I'm better with maths, right? That's what abusers do. They slowly take over all parts of your life. And then all those advantages that she has that other women who are in an abusive relationship don't, they all start to disappear one by one. I worry. She's doing it to herself, like eyes wide open. She's doing it to herself, but I still worry.
You know, giving you whiplash with everything. I don't want people to be, I know I can't please everybody, and for the most part I just ignore hate, but if there's something that you feel like the majority of people are outraged about, then I'm going to address it, and that's the truth. Nobody believes me anyways when I talk anymore. So for me, I don't feel like addressing things sometimes is worth it because nobody believes me anyways.
The reason nobody believes you is because you lie. That's just it. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no way for me to put it to make you feel better. You are a lying liar who lies lyingly all of the time. You obfuscate the truth. You leave critical pieces of information out when you tell a narrative so that you can shape it or you can get out of it so you can gaslight us. And it makes us unsympathetic to you. It makes us unbelieving of you. It just puts you in a really bad light, right? And at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that even though people want an explanation, they need to know what happened. There's a good chunk of people who will not believe anything you have to say without like solid evidence and corroboration, because you are not a trustworthy character. You're not. It's one of the reasons why people are willing to believe FFG, because they are willing to put their trust in her ability to parse through the information and pick out the pieces that are true from the bullshit. And that's what you have to do with you. Entirely possible that if you are completely honest and are never caught in a lie again, you continue to prove yourself over and over, then, you know, in like 4 months, 5 months, 1 year, whatever, that people will go back to believing you. Because people used to. People used to, when she would say something, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's probably the truth, right? People gave her that benefit of the doubt, especially when she came out with the cocaine story, especially when we heard about the fact that she was in an abusive relationship. People believed you. So if you continue to prove yourself, then people will forgive you, and most of them at least, and they'll move on and they'll go back to putting their trust in you. But the problem is, you can't seem to go a few days without being caught in one lie or another. You can't seem to go a few days without being caught in like a lie of omission. And that also counts, by the way, because while I believe that not everything needs to be told to us and she can just keep certain stories private, when you tell a story and you leave critical pieces of information out to make someone seem one way or another, you are painting a false narrative. You are lying by omission. If you don't want us to know about that, leave out the whole story. Unfortunately, in this one case, it is all or nothing. You cannot share only the bits of information with us that make him look good and that paint your life in a rosy picture, especially when it comes to Nader.
And that's the truth.
It means nothing. How am I supposed to believe you when you say that's the truth? You lie.
I felt really, really bad for it. Like, I don't want to like seem like I'm making excuses for people. Like, I'm just telling you what happened after, right? You know, I cried, I was like, BBJ, and he actually was crying and was like, don't talk about it. It makes me feel horrible. I did make sure, like, I was like, go.
See, I don't like that. The thing about guilt is that if you really felt bad about something and you don't, I mean, like, I can understand, like, being so guilty and so ashamed of something that you don't even want to think about it. But it seems more to me like he's just like, don't talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about this anymore, right? She's saying he's crying, but I don't know if I believe that. And it seems more to me that he just doesn't want her to bring it up anymore so that he can just not think about it anymore. That's the impression that it gives me. Because if he was actually sorry, he'd like cuddle the cat. What she would say to me is things like, she might say something like, you know, he like gave her extra treats, he picked her up, he played with her for such a long period of time, he bought her a toy, whatever. Those are signs of genuine remorse. The don't talk about it is a sign of I am done with this situation. And as for him crying, I really don't believe that.
Check her. Is she okay? Like, I went to check her, and she was fine. Like, she's not hurt. She wasn't hurt. No scratches, no broken bones on poor BBJ. Like, she's not abused. She just got startled. But
isn't BBJ a long-haired cat? So wouldn't it be hard to tell if she had bruising, if she had scratches, right? Unless she had a broken bone, it would be hard for you to tell, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know enough about cats here.
Yeah, that did piss me off and made me very mad. That's why I talked to you guys about it. Made me very mad, and I think what happens is when I'm mad, I come on here and I tell you every horrible thing because then I feel like, okay, I'm going to be too ashamed to go back. That's like me wanting to end everything. But that's impulsive of me because I don't fully think the situation through.
The thing about Chantal is, and she's impulsive, definitely, for sure. But the other part of it is that she doesn't care, right? Look, I could not come on here and tell you guys a bunch of things and then know that that I'm going to change my mind or whatever, and then just go back on it, right? There's a ton of, that's one of the reasons I don't tell you guys everything, no offense, is because I care about your opinion of me. For better or for worse, people keep some parts of their lives to themselves because they're ashamed. They don't want other people to see them in their failure. Chantal is not like that. She doesn't think internet people are real. That's why she doesn't give a shit if she puts all of her messy life out onto the world for everyone to see. And then immediately after, she goes back and she's just like, whatever, I'm just going to delete this now. You know, it didn't happen. You know, whatever, I'm going to go back to him anyway. And more importantly, the more people tell her that we don't want her going back to this man, that he's bad for her, that he's toxic for her, in her head, she's romanticizing that. You know, this is like Taylor Swift's love story, that, you know, Romeo and Juliet, that daddy doesn't want me to date this guy, so I'm going to do it anyway, anything for true love. You know, that very childish notion that people have of like, you don't know him the way that I do. He's a bad boy, but he's good for me. You know? None of that stuff is true. I don't want a bad boy who's good for me. I want a good boy who's great to me. You know, I want somebody like partner who keeps like $50 in the car in singles. I think maybe 20, I don't know. It's just a bunch of singles in the car so he can hand them out to homeless people. I want somebody like partner who takes his leftovers and orders extra meals so he can give them away to people. Someone who donates part of his salary whenever he can. I want someone like that. I want someone who makes me better. I want someone who spends time, energy, and effort trying to make the world a better place and everyone around him by virtue of that. I don't want someone who's garbage to everyone around them but me. I don't see the appeal in that. That's a childish notion of romance. People think they want a bad boy, but 9 times out of 10, if he's damaged, emotionally misunderstood, and all of that garbage, he's going to be just as toxic to you as he is to everybody else around him. I genuinely cannot understand why she doesn't seem to see that this is not somebody who's right for her. This is not someone I don't think is right for anyone, to be very frank. This is not a man that women should be relying on. This is not a man that she should be trying to build her life with. BB was a lot of things, and I think checked out of their relationship for all the time that she was on YouTube was most of them, at least as far as I could see. But he was never cruel to her. He was never cruel to her animals. I don't even know what this is. It's like she's determined to put herself in as much harm's way as possible. You know? It's that foolhardy notion that if I died, well, at least I died making my own decisions. No one is stopping you from making your own decisions, ma'am. You aren't a revolutionary. I'm not keeping you from seeing whoever you want to see. But it's like you're determined to put yourself in situations that are going to lead you down only one path. And I don't know if she's ever going to wake up one day and realize I've made a huge fucking mistake. All those people were right. I don't know if that's going to happen, or if she's determined to go to her grave being like, well, I made my own decisions. And that's the funny thing about it is she's not even making her own decisions. That's the saddest part about all of this. She's not like, have you, like hipsters, right? People, well, maybe not hipsters, but people who are like counterculture, right? They're like, oh, well, this is really popular, so I don't like it. Well, you have to be paying pretty close attention to what is and is not fashionable for you to make a decision of what you don't like. And that's what she does. She's like, I'm going to do the opposite of what everyone wants. But then you have to have actually listened to what they're saying, considered what they're saying, and then actively dismissed it. You still care about what everybody else wants in that sense, right? The opposite of love is not hate. It's apathy. And that's the part she doesn't seem to grasp. She's still trapped in that cycle of caring about what other people think. She's still not actually making her own decisions. And this is not even taking into account how much manipulation I think Netter is actually pulling on her. She is making whatever decision we tell her not to make. And unfortunately, it's not like a reverse psychology thing. I cannot in good conscience go online and say, oh, well, then you should totally get together with him. He seems like a great guy. Because on the off chance that doesn't actually work, and there's a very good chance that it wouldn't, because reverse psychology isn't exactly a science. Most of psychology is like an art almost, it feels like. And if she takes that as tacit permission and gets together with this guy and moves in, like, God forbid, she could be in a worse situation than before. I can only hope that the therapist that she's going to will be able to do more for her than anyone else has been able to do. And quite frankly, I'm not feeling very hopeful about that either. Because just as she curates the information we know, she curates the information that this person will know as well. That's very in line for her. And that's assuming, of course, that she does more than one session with them before she comes up with some excuse or another for why she can't go back, I didn't like them. They were actually more judgmental than I thought. They're moving away. Their cat died. They had to go bury their car in the lake. I don't really know. Whatever. She could make up any kind of excuse and she'll be like, these are all the X, Y, and Z reasons why it didn't work out. And then she'll start again. She's like, I spoke to my doctor like 3 months from now. I spoke to my doctor and they've actually given me a recommendation for psychology. Like, it's the first time this concept has come up, but no one has ever said to her before, you know what would work for you? Therapy. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Am I really ready? Am I going to just come back on here and, like, do you know what I mean? So being impulsive is definitely something that affects my life a lot.
It isn't enough to know that being impulsive affects your life. If you think that there is an aspect of your personality that's negatively harming you, you need to talk to someone who can help you address that. I've mentioned multiple times, I have an anger problem. I'm a very angry person, a lot of the time. But it doesn't seem like that on camera most of the time. At least I hope so. God, I hope so. I'm irritated with her, but I'm not screaming into the camera, melting down in rage. And that's what I'm prone to doing. You have no idea. And the reason I'm not like that is because I have a therapist. I have coping mechanisms. I have a way of talking to myself and talking myself out of my more destructive habits. And you can too, for the low, low price of trying to get better. But there's a concept of buy-in in therapy that I don't think that she's ready to embrace. You don't just get better in therapy. You have to want to get better. You have to work to get better. And that's where I think, even though she's going to therapy, I don't think she's actually doing therapy. At least not yet.
But I'm going to be blocking people who are assholes and just want to start stupid outrage drama for nothing. And I'm going to be striking a lot of channels.
All right, before she gets into this next part, I just want to put one thing out there really fast. She blocks people left, right, and center. Quite frankly, if you are a patron of hers, I have no idea why, because she doesn't deserve your patronage. She doesn't deserve, patron I'm saying, but member. If you're a member of hers, she doesn't deserve your membership. I'm sorry. You should go somewhere else. You should go somewhere where you are allowed to say what you want. These people are paying for the privilege of being able to say things. And they should be allowed to say pretty much anything, unless they're doxing your information, doxing Natter's information or your parents or something like that, making violent threats against you or saying like hate speech, using slurs. They should be able to say whatever they want because they're paying for that privilege. But if you are someone who is paying and still gets blocked and you make another account so you can do it, like I don't understand you. Why would you give this woman money? Why would you make her life easy? If someone treated me like that, you had better believe that I would be so pissed So incredibly pissed. Now, she's going to talk a little bit more about the striking situation, but I'll just say, Chantal, go ahead and strike. You can go ahead and strike whoever you want, but 99.9% of the people who are on here talking about you are actually transforming your content. I took a 1 hour live and I'm going to talk about 6.5, 7 minutes of it for 45 minutes, an hour? That's transformative. I'm adding so much context and so much information to what you're saying. And more importantly, if my channel goes away, well. Did you know that I have an entire life outside of Chantal? Job, family, friends, vacations, turmoil, sick days. I do so many things that are not Chantal related. And yeah, it would suck a little to not have this channel because like I said, this is more like fun for me than it is anything else. It's a hobby that I indulge in. This is not my income. This is not something I rely on for money. If it goes away, it doesn't hurt me, other than me being sad that it went away. So the only people you'll hurt is you, because my talking about you drives engagement to your channel. People go to your channel to leave you comments. If I don't talk about you, your channel dies. Why do you think Amber Lynn's channel is dying? Because she's boring and people are losing interest in her. And the more people lose interest in her, the less creators, it's mostly because there's less creators talking about her. And that's what started the death of her channel. And you don't seem to realize that, right? Like, people always talk about like parasitic relationships. This is not a parasitic relationship. This is a mutually beneficial relationship. You know, this is like the little birds that sit on top of the alligators and they like eat all of the things out of the alligator's teeth. It's why the alligator doesn't eat them. Now, I realize this implies that Chantal's the alligator who could eat me, but strike me if you want. Strike a bunch of people if you want. But if they go away, engagement for your channel is going to go down. And your channel is already verging on on like that dead channel zone. I really wouldn't push it.
Nobody's safe. FFG, fuck you. I don't understand these channels who think they can like go on a strike campaign and take down, let's say, people like Negs.
Let's say people like Negs. You guys should already be aware of what's happening if you guys at all follow the hater versus anti-hater drama. Negs' channel wasn't taken down because we don't like him or because he's talking about us or whatever like that, right? His channel wasn't taken down for that. He was making violent threats against people. He was talking shit about children on his channel. So this is what I mean. I don't believe in guilt by association. I don't. But when you come on here and you justify Negs' behavior, you're implicitly saying that you stand behind his behavior. There is a bunch of people in the hater community who I don't endorse and I don't know anything about. But if I'm giving support to those people, if I've talked about them on my channel, then yeah, come at me as well for things that they've said and done. Absolutely. And if I think that there's something that I can address there or that I should address there, I will. You are on here, you're defending this man, and you have no idea. And I think this is the other reason why she pretends she plays that game where she's like, oh, I don't know who this person is. Because then she can be on there and say, oh, well, I didn't know. I didn't know that they were like this. You remember Shani for Christ? Right? Giving her hundreds of dollars, and then all of a sudden the money well dried up, and so Chantal's like, I didn't realize this person was racist. Shani for Christ's been racist forever. People pointed this out to you. But you were a bitch then, and you're a bitch now. You don't know anything, so keep your fucking mouth shut. It's honestly that easy. The fact that she doesn't seem to realize that. I think it's going to bring heat on her. She knows this. It's going to bring heat on her. And she thinks that she's going to be the person to go around avenging Negs. God, whatever, you know, whatever.
When they do even worse, do you think your channels are safe? I don't think so.
What worse? I want you to point to the creators that he targets and tell me which of them are worse than he is. He has been going after Shane, Callie, FFG, Charlie Gold forever. Most of these people barely even talk about him. And when they do, they're not threatening him. They're not saying, I'm going to show up at your door and like bring a gun, which is something that he threatened to do. He's never said, you know, they've never said, oh, I hope Natter hits Chantal harder, as he's literally said about FFG's ex. So shut the fuck up. you lowbrow, disgusting, bald-ass bitch.
You do a lot worse to me. You've exploited my problems, my videos. You've made enough money off of my videos for how many years? And you want to go cry because Negs is calling you out on your bullshit? You want to go fucking cry and blubber away when it's done to you? Take a sip of the same drink, bitch. Is just like I've always said.
This is the end of part 1. I'm just gonna say this. First of all, I wouldn't talk about blubber being 500 pounds that you are. Sorry, 450 that you are. I got confused with Amber Lynn for a second. Wouldn't talk about blubber there. Second of all, the only drink that you're drinking right now, ma'am, is the Kool-Aid. And let me just reiterate. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Not only is your opinion invalid because it's ill-informed, it's also stupid. Because you're stupid. I'm getting really mad, so I guess it's a good time I left this till the end because I'm going to step back, I'm going to go, I'm going to have some dinner, and then I'll come back and I'll film part 2 of this because I'm really mad now. And if I continue talking, I'm just going to devolve into that like area where I just scream incoherently into the camera. And I don't want to do that. I never like doing that. I don't like people who do that either. So I will be back. See you guys for part 2 later. This is my official outro. This is me saying, hey guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate everybody listening to me. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell. All of those fun things. Social medias down below. Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. You guys know the drill. Thank you to my patrons of honor, to Oceana Song and to D. Higgins. Y'all are awesome. Thank you to all of my patrons. You guys genuinely make it so much easier for me to do things for this channel. I've been working on getting the sound equipment to work and it has been going very badly. All in all, I just want to say thank you. Genuinely, this is a hobby for me, but you guys make it fun. I love reading all of your comments. Even if I don't respond, please understand, I read everything. I actually go through and I read threads and everything, right? Like, I just don't get a chance to respond to everybody because y'all are so awesome and I get so many comments now. It would take me forever. Thank you for watching. As always, my name is Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Dane TB, Jam Beans, Sidra Z, Colleen L, Debbie Elliott, Just a Jude, Kate O, and a special thank you to my $25 patrons, D. Higgins and Oceana Song.